You are in for a treat with this podcast. My guest was a lot of fun again. And what I want you to do is we've got a few guests coming up that have very different personalities. I want you to pay attention to this. Stephen doesn't come across as that stereotypical business owner that grows things and has just ridiculous amounts of energy and is charismatic. It's the charisma's coming out of his ears. That's not how he comes across. The way he comes across is measured. His approach is strategic. He takes his time to think through things. And that produces a very different business. The business looks very different than what another business might look like that has that crazy visionary that's driving hard. We are going to have some of those visionaries coming up here as well because they are so much fun to interview as well, and they grow a company in a very unique way as well. I mean crazy in a very positive way here. What I want you to do, so number one, pay attention to the different personalities coming up in the upcoming podcast. Number two, I want you to ask yourself right now, what areas of your business look fantastic? And which areas don't look as good? If somebody were to look under the hood, what would they find? Would they find everything gleaming chrome? Or would they see a little bit of rust and a few pistons that are kind of sticking out the side somewhere? The reason I ask this question is that I had a mentor at one point in time in business and real estate who said, who asked me the question, Mark, when is the worst time to sell a real estate property? And I hummed and hawed about it and talked about when the market's low or when this is happening or that's happening. He said, no, Mark, the worst time to sell a business or property of any type is when you have to sell it. When you have to sell something, you now do not have any leverage, and you really have to go with what works for other people. This interview is going to show you the exact opposite of that. A time when Stephen didn't need to sell a business, when he wasn't even looking or wanting to sell a business, something came along that he really couldn't pass up, and the ownership group could not pass up. Now, I talked about different personalities and how Stephen Wallace isn't the prototypical or stereotypical hard-charging business owner. He mentions right at the end of the interview that he is an implementer rather than an initiator. And I wanted to describe that just really quickly for you. Those are words that we use at Concord a lot to describe different people. There are people who are really wired towards leadership and charging ahead and making things happen. And then there are a lot of other people in a business that then put that idea to practice and actually implement that idea. So there are initiators and implementers. Now there are other pieces to this puzzle, but for right now, just so you understand what he's talking about, he's referring to himself as somebody who tends to take an idea and make it great rather than come up with those ideas himself and lead the charge in a unique way. Without further ado, I'm going to allow you to jump into this. I'm excited about the outro as well. I've got a few ideas that I want to discuss with you. All right, another podcast, another Traits podcast. Today I am joined by Stephen Wallace. Stephen, you have done a whole bunch of cool things, like all of our guests. Two things that jump out to me is that you built an engineering firm, you sold that engineering firm, and now you are a consultant. So again, I've got probably a lot of questions to ask in there, but what I want to start off with is going back to that engineering firm, because you started in on a story a few weeks back that I would really love to flesh out for anyone listening to this. You talked about creating a shiny business. So explain what a shiny business is.
Well, for me, the engineering business that you refer to was actually kind of a multidiscipline business that had engineering and land surveying and planning and some environmental work. And I was an owner along with 9 other people. So we had a partnership group of varying ages and shareholder interest and that type of thing, which is, pretty common in the consulting business. And when I started my career, there was 20 people in the business, and as my career evolved, we grew and added disciplines, and my position started sort of climbing the corporate ladder, as you so to speak. And a lot of that growth was organic, at our main office in uh, Halifax area in Nova Scotia. In the late 90s, we did merge with a company in New Brunswick that gave us a boost in the presence in New Brunswick, and opened an office in St. John, New Brunswick. And all of that was just happening kind of in a as it goes type of way, with not a lot of planning and following a plan, just doing what the instincts felt like was the right thing to do. And then in 2007, we were around 150 people at that point, and the ownership group really felt like we were at a level where we wanted to maybe get a little more serious about this, or a little more thoughtful. And so I had joined Tech Canada in the fall of 2007. Uh, the listeners may know Tech is the type of group where you have 8 or 10 people in your community that are business leaders from different companies who get together once a month to swap ideas and provide advice to each other, that type of thing. And our local chairperson would bring in different speakers for different business topics. And it was through that process that I met a gentleman named Dwayne Fliss in Concord Consulting. And Dwayne's presentation to that group was around the trait survey and the personality traits and people's dots and all of that stuff, which there'd be a lot of familiarity with the listeners around that. And so I was introduced to Dwayne through that route in the fall of 2007 or early 2008. And that was kind of a convergence of when this other stuff was happening in our business, that the ownership group wanted to have a more structured plan around how we were going to grow the business. There was a lot of appetite for growth. Our ownership group was relatively young. I think the oldest was in their mid 40s, and sprinkling of ages down into the mid 20s. So we had nice succession profile set up and lots of runway left in the leadership group moving forward. So after meeting Dwayne and getting into some discussions around this, and we decided to do a formal strategic plan, we engaged Dwayne in the fall of 2008. And he came to Nova Scotia, and we met a hotel for one of those weekend retreat type of events, Thursday, Friday, Saturday type of thing. And we did our first strategic plan, with Dwayne being the person who guided us through that.
I'm going to jump into that strategic plan. Most of our listeners are going to know exactly what you're talking about. But for those who don't, what is a strategic plan, and what is the importance to creating a higher performing organization?
Well, we had lots of informal discussion about what we might want to do, how we would go about doing it, and those types of things. We hadn't sat down as a group of 10 and actually wrestled through that to create focus. And so there wasn't coordinated action amongst all 10 to work towards something that all 10 of us had contributed to and agreed to and bought into. And so it really became an exercise to bring clarity to that, to debate as a group which elements we wanted to give more focus to and which ones were further down the list, brainstorm with each other around the how part of it, not just the what part of it. And so all of that really helped to create goals that we all participated in and we were able to all buy into, and a collaborative action plan that everybody could see their fingerprints on. And then when we would move forward and start dividing up the who does what part, there was ownership in all of that because everybody had a chance to participate in that process.
It's funny, when I think about it, so many companies talk about improving culture. How do we get more buy-in from the people or in the organization? In my experience, most companies are so busy doing what they're doing, especially high growth companies are so busy in doing what they're doing every day that they don't have the time, or don't believe they have the time, to take that step back and really look at their business in a coordinated, strategic way where they all have, like you said, the fingerprints on this plan. Well, that automatically creates buy-in. So what was the end result for you? Like where did that take you? How did it benefit your organization?
Well, it created focus for us. And we, at that time, as I touched on, we were a young ownership group. We had lots of runway. It was a time of acquisitions in Canada for companies like ours. The larger companies were looking to spread their wings through acquisition. We had no interest in being acquired. We were a successful company. We were happy with our financial results. We had good employees, worked with great clients, all of those things. So it was from that perspective, um, didn't really have any interest in pursuing sale of the business. What it did do though is by having this plan that came out of that weekend, it really helped us have a roadmap to get to where we wanted to get to ourselves. And as I touched on, the ownership group had a pretty high growth focus in their goals. We had grown a lot in the last 10 years. We saw the advantages of growth and what it offered for a variety of project assignments for our staff, the ability to attract people, the types of clients we were able to have become interested in having us work for them. And so we wanted more of that. And so we now had a roadmap to move forward. And in preparation for this podcast, I actually found the PowerPoint presentation I gave to our staff in November of 2008 after that. And what our plan was called Vision 2010, reaching for the next level. So that's kind of what it was all about at that time. And the plan, we really kicked into gear coming out of that weekend and started doing a lot of stuff that was very beneficial for our business.
Fantastic. And again, just going back to this, the points that you're bringing out are the whole group now has buy-in because the whole group has their fingerprints on this. The whole group has now is moving in the right way with focus, as you said, because you've taken the time apart to do this. And it's one of those, Stephen Covey talks about important versus urgent. And so often we're in the urgent rather than the important. Well, as a business leader owner, we need to focus on the important. That is extremely important. Okay, so you said that you weren't interested in selling at the time. That was not your focus at all.
No.
Tell me what a shiny business is and what that means to you.
So I have a very clear memory of how I was introduced to that, and when we arrived at that strategic planning session I've been speaking about, everybody came from different places. Dwayne came in from Western Canada, and so the first evening after dinner, we had a short session to get ready to launch for the next day, and Dwayne spoke about the notion that it was his belief that it's beneficial for every business to run and operate your business as if you're getting ready to sell it. Even if that is not what you want to do, and even if it's not a priority, if you have that mentality, then you'll do good things for the business. And the good things that you do to prepare for sale are good things that'll serve the company very well, even if they don't sell. And that was the notion that he was planting in our minds to launch what we would be talking about in the couple of days thereafter. And he talked about making your business shiny. And I think he talked about, a diamond ring and polishing a diamond ring or a gold necklace or whatever it might be. And I was thinking about this coming into this podcast interview we're having, and just down the street from where I live is a drive-in hamburger place, and it has a whole 1950s decor to it, which they've preserved even up to this day, and the nostalgia of all of that time, and that's their brand. And people come from far away to go have a burger from this place because of its thing. And if you go down there on a Sunday morning in the summertime, there'll be 25 or 30 antique autos there all lined up, and they all got their hood up, and everybody's showing off their car. And the armor all has been put on the tires, and the chrome is glistening, and there's 6 coats of wax on it, and the leather inside the seats is all polished. All of these car owners, they've taken a lot of care to make their car shiny, and so they're all walking up and down looking at each other's car. Nobody's there to buy a car from each other, but they all have this sense of pride and accomplishment in what they've created, that they're coming down there on Sunday morning to kind of show off and share with each other and have the kind of chats that they have at those kind of events. And so, like in a business context, um, is your financial reporting system shiny? Is your recruiting process shiny? Is your employee compensation program shiny? Is your client relationship protocol shiny? Or your training program shiny? And on and on and on. All of the elements of your business, you can kind of think about them like the antique car. It's the muffler, it's the leather seats, it's the wax on the hood, and all that stuff. It's just presented in a different way. And so, in working on our business to try to make it shiny for ourselves, we did a bunch of things that tried to shine up the different pieces of our business and make the overall thing that much more attractive if we wanted to drive it down to Sunday morning at the hamburger joint.
That's brilliant, because the picture I have in my mind is this car that somebody's taken care of so much and it has so much value, but they've missed like the entire side panel. And what is everyone going to look at when they look at that car? They're going to notice the side panel because it's out of place, right? And so much of our lives in business is about marketing ourselves and hey, look at us, we're doing this in the right way. This is how we attract new clients or customers. This is how we grow. This is how we develop more. Maybe go back a little bit, because you talked about different areas of business and making it shiny. Let's forget about selling a business. How does this help a business as it's operating right now by making all the aspects shiny?
Well, I think it creates that holistic hum of something that's humming in with the level of synchronicity to it, I guess. There's no rattles in the background. The coordination and the symmetry of having all of it happening really can become something quite special, in my belief. And we never got to award-winning, put on 4 layers of sunglasses shiny in our business. We were pretty shiny starting out. We weren't a rust box. We did some things that did move the needle, for sure.
Okay, what were the positive differences you saw as you went through that process? How did the business improve because of what you were implementing?
I would say the most tangible one that cascaded into some other things was up until that point, we did not have a formal, recognizable organizational structure. Our reporting lines were kind of muddled. If you ask somebody, I need a decision on this, who do I talk to? There would be maybe some confusion around that. Things were happening, but it was kind of ad hoc, and it was working. It just wasn't as efficient and as streamlined as what it turned out to be beneficial for us when we actually took that on. That was building an organizational structure and creating job descriptions, which we didn't have going into that strategic planning meeting. Was one of our 13 action items, and it was the one that we tackled first. And I do think that is the one that ended up springboarding us being able to move the needle on other things in HR or our compensation package for our employees, on our financial reporting, and taking all of those other pieces to a higher level of performance. So that's what we tackled first. We ended up hiring Dwayne for a second assignment to take us through that organizational structure piece and identify that, how that would flow through the organization, and responsibilities and authorities, those types of things. And we also had Dwayne create job descriptions for our leadership team and our management team all the way down through to our project people, that everybody in the company now had a 2-page-ish job description that described how they could contribute, and became the basis of discussions with them about, this is what we'd like you to do, and let's talk about how you're doing on those things.
This is making so much sense, because as an organization grows from 20 to, I think you said, about 150, you start to create inefficiencies. That's just the normal. You've got one person that was doing this when they came in. Now they're in a completely different role. So people are going to them because they've been used to it in other situations to go to this person and ask questions, and that just becomes inefficient over time. That makes complete sense to me. Talk about job descriptions, because I think when I talk about job descriptions, most people that I'm talking to's eyes completely glaze over. They don't want to think about job descriptions. They don't want to go there. What was the value of creating job descriptions?
Well, it really was around clarity, so that the organization figured out what we, how we thought this person could contribute, and the individual would then understand that. And when we rolled those out, it wasn't like, here it is, go do it. It was, here's what we're thinking. What ideas do you have? What have we missed? What's in there that you think might be better done by somebody different than you? And so it created some good discussions that weren't as prevalent prior to that. And then what emerges is, as I've touched on, a better understanding of how that individual can contribute. And then when you roll it all up, how the package of the individuals come together to help make the team that much more successful, with the clarity around how everybody's contributing.
Three factors you're mentioning there: clarity for the individual, I know exactly what I need to do and focus on; clarity for everyone around the individual, hey, this is what this person is doing, so this is where I go to them, this is when I don't go to them, so there's more efficiency. And then thirdly, the efficiency of its organization, as all these different job roles are moving everyone in a direction. So again, more efficiency, which I really like. Again, we're talking about higher performance, so that makes sense to me. All right, how long did the org structure take for you guys?
I think that was like a 3 or 4 month assignment for Dwayne, something like that. There was quite a bit to do, and back and forth. It was something like that type of time frame, as I recall.
And that makes sense again to me. Doing a 5 minute version isn't going to get done
No,
what
no,
needs to
no. It
happen,
was,
right?
yeah, it was quite a thorough process for sure.
All right. Let's go to the end result. So you weren't thinking about selling. You start creating this shiny business. Things start getting taken care of. There's efficiency all over the place. And my understanding is that you were going to take it further, but you were interrupted with something. Maybe share what the end result was.
Yeah, so that was in we did the strategic plan in the fall of 2008, and throughout 2009, that was a big year of implementation of the items that had come out of the plan in the fall of 2008. And we're rolling into January of 2010, and my wife and I are going to Toronto to watch one of our sons play in a hockey tournament. And when the plane lands, I turn on my phone and I check my voice messages, and there's this voice message from this gentleman I'd never heard of or met before. Didn't even hardly recognize the name. It was just, sometimes you get a little bit of a garbled uh, message in your voice recording. Anyway, I call back and I find out that I'm calling the head office of an engineering company in Montreal, and the secretary, I guess, had been alerted to me coming in, and I get patched through to the president of that organization. So this is completely out of the blue. And so we have about a half-hour conversation about our business. He introduces himself, and so I get a sense of where he's coming from and his background and the organization he represents. And he asks us about how many employees we have and our client. Just very, just kicking the tires type of conversation. And it ended with him asking if it was okay if he could fly down and visit us at our office in the Halifax area. Sure, why not? So a couple of weeks later, whatever it was, he and his chief operating officer come and visit us, and we had brought our 10. Well, maybe that first meeting was just 4 or 5 of us. Probably there was just 4 or 5 of us there, and we talked for a couple hours, and they get into deeper layers of our operation, asking things, and we asked them some questions. And And really, away it went from there. Afterwards, they communicated to us that they'd like to get serious. At that time, they had a presence throughout all of Canada from Quebec westward. They did not have a presence in Atlantic Canada, and they wanted to acquire what they called a platform business in Atlantic Canada, that they could use that platform to acquire additional what they call bolt-on businesses once you get your platform in place. And they saw that we were a candidate, an attractive candidate to be their platform business in Atlantic Canada. So our ownership group was kind of, well, you never know, why not? Let's go down this road, I guess, see where it takes us. And anyway, one thing led to another, and in the end, they presented us with an offer that the ownership group, who had no intention of selling, decided to accept. And we closed in June of 2010. That was about a 6-month process. And so June of 2010 is less than 2 years after we had done the strategic planning session in November of 2008. So it all happened quite rapidly when I reflect back on it. And there's no question that the elements that came out of that strategic planning session and the energy and hard work we put into acting on those things through the 2009 year were very attractive when this company was looking at us. And we had put in quite a few foundational pieces that were scalable. They liked that, and they liked that we had demonstrated we could do things like that. And so that was how it all happened.
Do you believe that this making your business shiny changed the multiple that you could ask for?
Oh, for sure. I that was my first experience, so I didn't have a benchmark. I do feel that what they were willing to pay for us was impacted by that work, no question. And they knew they were dealing with an ownership group that was not looking to sell, so they had to overcome that also. So yeah, there's no question that the work that doing the strategic plan in the fall of 2008 and acting on a number of the key elements through 2009 definitely impacted how that all came together for the sale.
I've got a friend that's looking to buy a couple of businesses right now, and I buy real estate all the time. And when I'm always fascinated. I'll go and look at a building, or I'll look at the numbers, and somebody wants what everyone else is getting for their business or for their real estate portfolio. And when I look at the numbers, I see a lot of rusty side panels. I'm like, I'm not sure about this. You're asking the same price other people are asking for, but you're offering me something less. And often what I hear from a business owner or somebody who owns the portfolio, they say, well, Mark, like, think about what it could be worth if you do all this work. And I said, yeah, I agree. It'll be worth this much if I do all the work. So if I do all the work, I want to be compensated for it. If you've already done the work, you can be compensated for it. But there's no way I'm going to compensate you for a whole bunch of work I'm going to do. And I think that's a really good perspective for business owners, both looking to buy and looking to sell. They need to think about these things, that if we're half shiny or a little bit shiny, that's a very different picture in what we are going to get, but with customers, in our new recruits, with who we're hiring, who's going to be attracted to our business. If it's shiny, more people are attracted. I think about this restaurant, this drive-in that you've talked about, and anyone driving by the road, their eyes are going to be drawn to these vehicles in the parking lot. And that's what we want. We want people to be drawn to us and say, hey, I want to work here. Hey, I want to work with these people. I want to spend hard-earned money with them because I'm going to get something of value for myself. What are your thoughts on that?
Agree 100%. Once we were acquired in June of 2010, I remained on as Senior VP for Atlantic Canada, and my primary responsibility was to go out and search the marketplace for additional companies to acquire and bring on the bolt-ons that I touched on earlier. So I spent 4 years doing that, and in that 4 year period, probably visited 30 or 35 companies. The same, it was the exact reverse of what I described when I got my out of the blue phone call. And so I had a chance to see a wide range of vehicles and different levels of shine, um, and could see all of what you just touched on, Mark. You know, in a very tangible way. We did acquire 4 companies during that 4 year period, which was an interesting exercise, an opportunity to be able to participate in all of that. And so, yeah, being on both sides of it was really a really cool experience for me.
Gives a different perspective when you're on both sides. I'm sure of it. Okay, so you are now a consultant. You sold your business, you're out of it now, you are now a consultant. Tell me more about your consulting business and what you focus on with businesses.
Well, I work with the leadership team. One is a professional services company that has quite a close crossover with the specifics of my earlier career. And one is a company that manufactures high-end wood for buildings and different things like that. So it's kind of a different business. And it really it's a lot of the same stuff that I was speaking about and I experienced in my career through the 2000 time period and my time with Dwayne, and trying to I've told the shiny story before and used it to help frame the part of, if you're thinking about improving your business to where it might be attractive to somebody that would like to buy it, here's the things you might want to think about and tackle. And everything's different. In some cases it's a certain element deserves priority attention, in other cases it's something different. And so my natural inclination is to be an implementer. I'm not an initiator. And so it was very beneficial for me for that '08 strategic planning exercise for my company to have a context where somebody was helping to drive the initiation of the activity. And then once it flipped over into implementation, that was my space and I was ready to go. And so the companies that I work with now, I try to help them think about strategy, and they're in a pretty good place that way. They're pretty clear about what they want to do and where they want to get to. And so most of how I help them is to identify things from my experience around the implementation of how you get there and how you might want to tackle it. And in some cases I get kind of hands-on with them. In other cases we'll bring in somebody from outside that has the subject matter expertise. So it's kind of a blend of that type of thing.
Brilliant. So you increase other businesses' shine these days.
Sure. Well, I don't force anything on them. I just share potential opportunities, and they're both really good companies, and they're acting on a lot of stuff, and it's certainly helping them move the needle.
There's so much value and experience, and when I hear about your experience, both with growing from small to a decent sized company, selling yourselves, acquiring other companies, all of that experience, I'm sure, plays such a massive role for your clients right now. If somebody did want to, we were just talking before we started this, and you said, you know what, I'm pretty happy with my work-life balance right now. I'm not looking for too many more clients. Having said that, if somebody was saying, hey, I got to get a hold of this Stephen guy, what is the contact information I should be giving them in the show notes when I put this together so that people can reach out to you easily?
My email is Stephen with a PH .Wallace, the number 6, the number 4 at gmail.com. And my phone number is 902-580-3397.
That is a gift, to be giving your contact information to people. I ask people to use it wisely. Don't kick tires. Make sure that you're giving value, as in everything, if you contact Stephen. Thank you for this, Stephen. There are a couple other questions that came to my mind as we were talking there. They were a little bit rabbit traily, so I was trying to be careful with them. but I might use the same phone. I might be giving you a call myself in a couple of months and see if you can do another one of these to get into some of those other aspects, because while you gave a ton of value here, I know that you have a lot more to give people. Would you be up for that another time?
Yeah, for sure. Be happy to speak again, Mark. And um, as we wrap up, I'd give a shout out to Dwayne. Um, After my wife, he's one of the top, most impactful people in my business career. And uh, maybe he'll listen to this and hear that, or maybe you can send him a note and pass that along.
I will definitely send him a note. I know it'll bring a smile to his face. He's got such a great memory. You know him, to think about the people that he's worked with and help out in the future. So I will definitely mention that to him. Thanks, Stephen. I wanted to bring your attention in this outro to just a few things that really jumped out to me about this interview. The first is that every business owner needs to focus on creating a business that would be shiny to, number one, outside companies for purchase. Number two, for high-end employees that would want to work with you. Number three, to clients and customers who want to do business with you. When we create a shiny business, there is no downside to this. Our business looks good from every angle. And that is even if you don't want to sell, even if if you're not thinking that that's the exit strategy. I want to mention the value of a few things that Stephen mentioned. One, he talked about a strategic plan. Two, he talked about an org design. And then thirdly, he talked about good job descriptions. These are actually all things that Concord really focuses on with businesses. Most businesses come to us because they really like hiring in a different way. Hiring has been difficult for them. They want to figure this out in a different way. So they come to us and they go, hey, listen, I love your traits tool for hiring. Having said that, hiring is one part of a business. And just as Stephen was talking about, I'm going to use the same analogy. If you've got a car that isn't shiny in certain places, if there are certain things that people are going to have their eyes drawn to, that is not, again, from the outside looking in, for these outside companies, outside employees that might want to work for you, and outside clients and customers who want to do business with you. It's not ideal for them, but it's also just not ideal for the business. It's so good to have that end in mind, to make things shiny. And part of that is having a strategic plan. I'm going to emphasize what I talked about in that interview, and that is it is difficult when you're in the muck to take a step back. You're working your tail off and you're trying to figure things out here, and to take a step back can feel like a waste of time. I referred to a book that I read a long time ago by Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where he talks about a 4-quadrant exercise. And he says, hey, listen, most people will do the urgent. It is much more difficult to do the important. But as a business owner, as a business leader, you have to focus on the important rather than the urgent. The urgent will get done. As you know, the urgent will get done. You'll always find time for the urgent. But the important stuff, that taking a step back, the strategic planning, the org design, that's what creates efficiency. And again, we're not just talking about shiny businesses. We're talking about efficient businesses. We're talking about a business when somebody goes through things with a fine-tooth comb, when they look under the hood, when they actually put their finger in the tailpipe and just go like, what is going on here? There's just no dirt anywhere. It's an efficient, beautiful business. And that's what I think we're all after when we create a business, is something that is not simply looking good from the outside, but actually works well for our employees, for our investors, for ourselves. I mentioned a trip to Vegas in this podcast. And actually, I've taken that trip. I took it about a week or two ago, and it was a lot of fun to go on this business trip. We were looking at 4 different businesses. We have lots of meetings. We were looking under the hood. We were searching for rust and grime and dirt with these businesses. And something that jumped out to me was one specific business broker that we're working with. We're working with a few. One business broker, every single time he makes a referral to us of, hey, you guys might want to look at this business. It is a gorgeous business. It has a lot of shine to it. And that is something that jumped out to us. We kind of went, hey, listen, like we could spend time doing a lot of work with a lot of different brokers, and we will, But there is value in just hanging out with a broker who finds shiny businesses and then sells those. Again, I talked about the idea of you can create the shine to this, and you will receive the multiple for that when you sell or when you're refinancing or doing whatever you need to do. Or somebody else can create that shine, but they're not going to pay you when you haven't shined it up. Lastly, just before I go, please respect Stephen's time. He gave out his phone number. That's not a thing that a lot of my interviewees are comfortable with. He was willing to do that. So please respect. This is his personal email address. This is his cell phone number. Please respect his time if you do reach out to him. Fantastic human being to get to know. I'm so grateful for all of our guests. My focus this time is on Stephen. Stephen, thank you so much for doing this again. Everyone, enjoy your week. If you do have some questions about strategic plans or org designs, or even creating better job descriptions so you're finding the right people for your business, reach out to us. I'll put in a link where you can reach out to us, and we will have a discussion about that. Again, enjoy your week.